Once upon a time, there was a creature who was like a cross between a hippo and a wolf. It decided to go for a swim, and to make a long story short, 50 million years later, we have whales and dolphins. The proper way of dividing the whales is into the baleen whales and the toothed whales, which includes dolphins. And so, despite being mammals who breathe oxygen by taking air into their lungs, they've decided to live underwater. This is strange enough, but then some of the toothed whales decided to take it even further. So it's one thing needing to breathe air and living underwater when you swim near the surface, because you can quickly come up to breathe at any time. It's another thing needing to breathe air and living underwater when you swim down into the deepest depths of the ocean as far away from the surface as possible. This is whales in the deep sea. Here are the deepest diving whales. Sperm whales are the biggest, most famous toothed whale, and they regularly dive between 1 and 2,000 meters or 3,000 to 6,500 feet for about 45 minutes. But actually, it's a smaller, lesser known toothed whale that is the deepest diving whale, the beaked whales. So there are around 22 species of beaked whale, and the Cuvier's beaked whale is the species that's been recorded going the deepest, to 2,992 meters or 9,800 feet, and for 3 hours and 42 minutes. And it likely goes deeper. This is just when our tracking tags stop working. Also, since we keep discovering new species of beaked whale and have hardly studied most species we know of, perhaps another beaked whale species can go even deeper. When a whale dives deep, they face two main challenges. So, of course, they need to have enough oxygen, but also the deeper you go, the greater the water pressure. How do these whales cope with this? Well, all mammals have a thing called the mammalian dive reflex, and by all mammals I mean humans too, where to conserve oxygen when diving, the heart rate is slowed and blood is directed towards vital organs. But these deep diving whales have some extra tricks. So you might expect that before diving they would take a big breath of air, but actually they do the opposite. Before diving they exhale almost all the air out of their lungs, then they collapse their lungs, squeezing all the air left into a small space. This prevents the lungs being ruptured by the high pressure, and beyond just mechanically making sense, it reduces gas exchange, which stops them absorbing nitrogen, preventing nitrogen narcosis or oxygen decompression sickness. Now, you might be thinking, how do they get oxygen? Well, they don't use lungs as a source of oxygen when they dive. They rely on enhanced oxygen stores in their blood and muscle. Hemoglobin is the oxygen transporting protein in blood, and myoglobin is the oxygen storage protein in muscle. They have very high concentrations of these proteins as well as a high blood volume. And to use up less oxygen, as well as diverting blood flow from extremities to essential organs, they can even shut down some non-essential organs. They can also decrease their metabolism or use anaerobic metabolism. And finally, they often glide rather than swim to use less energy, with beaked whales even having a pocket for their flippers to go in to help them be more streamlined. But actually, even all these findings don't quite explain how they survive so long without breathing. Then, when they return to the surface, their lungs open up so that they can get the last bit of oxygen to prevent shallow water blackouts occurring, where they become unconscious due to a lack of oxygen to the brain. Why do they go to all this trouble to dive so deep? Well, it means that they can hunt for prey whilst being safe from predators. Orcas are a predator of both sperm and beaked whales, but since orcas usually dive to less than 100 meters or 300 feet, they can't hunt sperm or beaked whales when they dive deep. So sperm and beaked whales can feed on deep sea squids and fish without worrying about being predated on themselves. And a fun fact is that while sperm whales are the largest toothed predator on Earth, despite beaked whales also being toothed whales, they don't have functional teeth. Instead, they just sort of suck up food. And evidence that beaked whales may dive deeper than the tags recorded is marks on the ocean floor from where they might have sucked up food at 4,258 meters or 14,000 feet. These amazing deep dives also play a role in fighting climate change. See, the whales hunt in the deep, but they defecate once they return to the surface, once their body's back to working normally. This moves nutrients up through the water column to near the surface, such as iron, which stimulates the growth of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton photosynthesizing converts carbon dioxide from our atmosphere into organic carbon that enters the marine food web, playing a part in the ocean absorbing 25% of our carbon dioxide emissions. In fact, a single whale can capture as much carbon through this process as 30,000 trees. So, since they need to go to the surface to breathe air, these deep diving whales, or should I say sometimes surfacing whales, aren't really considered deep sea animals. But the extraordinary physiology and their role in helping absorb CO2 means that I think they should be given honorary deep sea animal status.